Thank you, everyone. You know, this program's been going about 15 years, and this is a tradition going back to the beginning and having the students introduce one another. Every year the class gets a little bigger, and we're a little worried about how long it's going to take. But I think, you know, it was wonderful today. The things you said about each other, and the personal growth you've had, and the relationships you've built, it's just fantastic. And I extend my appreciation for the effort every individual here went to find out and come up with a really nice introduction for your colleague. It's great. Now we do have a class valedictorian. You've already been introduced a little bit to Krista Ring. So Krista, I ask you to come forward.
I'm going to move this back a little bit. I'm told I'm a loud talker. First of all, Dean, thank you for explaining the outfit thing. I actually thought Vern and Barry were on their way to a Renaissance fair after the ceremony, so now I understand how it works. I'd like to say thank you to our faculty, and thank you and welcome to our esteemed guests and our friends and our family. Thank you and welcome to my fellow classmates. I'm glad you were able to take some time from penciling in MBA next to your names on your business cards in order to attend. While reflecting on my time in this program, I asked my classmates to send me their thoughts in the last 2 years that we have spent together. I needed everyone's input because I was struggling to sum up this experience that we have all shared. This request was largely ignored. Doug was the only one that actually replied. Thank you, Doug. But then I remembered to attach a hard deadline. The deadline provided a better participation rate, which only could have been improved if I had figured out how to assign a grade. However, for those of you that did respond, thank you. You've helped me with this daunting task. After all, what can I say? What single thing do we all have in common? How can I sum up this 2 years that we've shared? We all have very diverse backgrounds. As you've learned from the introductions, we are not all engineers working in oil and gas. We have Frank, a pediatric cardiologist, Alex, an economist, Krista, a vet. We have people from tech, plumbing, and land development companies, among others. We are as varied as our haircuts, and each of us brought our own set of skills, motivations, and hang-ups. We all had unique reasons for entering this program. Some of us viewed the MBA as the next logical step in a career, and for others, it was a Hail Mary. Most of us had many practical reasons for signing up. We wanted to round out the skills and knowledge that we recognized we needed. Amanda, for example, admits that prior to school, she was a little foggy on the whole credit-debit distinction, and I know she's not alone in this. We needed to demystify finance. We needed to understand why we need to care about HR. We needed to address and overcome the hidden shame of our remedial Microsoft Office suite abilities. And we needed to decipher balance sheets and organizational development. We needed to learn how to talk pretty in the boardroom. So how can I sum it all up? Summing up this 2-year experience in just 15 minutes. And I promise you, 15 minutes. Ultimately, it comes down to this. There is one thing that sums it up for all of us. Swimming. You see, just give me a minute, it'll make sense in a second. You see, I come from a family of swimmers. My 2 sisters and I were competitive swimmers and certified lifeguards, and we came by it honestly. My mom, a former swimming instructor, spent years volunteering as a synchronized swimming judge. We spent our winters in the pool and our summers in the lake, and we loved it. Everyone except for my dad. My father, a big burly sort of man, had more of a reputation in our family as a sun worshiper and water avoider. If my dad were an animal, he could best be described as a bear that thinks he's a cat. In those summers at the lake, my dad could always be found happily lounging on the shore. Only occasionally, when his skin had achieved the temperature and texture of a well-cooked Christmas turkey, would he venture into the water. He'd wade out about waist deep, splash around a bit, and once his exterior had recovered to more moderate temperatures, he'd wade out again to continue his self-rotisserie. One year, our family vacationed in Maui, and we found this amazing little snorkeling cove. At first, as usual, my dad was happy to relax on the beach. But the snorkeling was so great, the water clear and full of fish, we decided to coax him into the water. We fitted him with the largest face mask, fins, and snorkel we had on hand. And he came out with my sisters and me while my mom stayed ashore watching. I didn't think much of it until dinner later when my mother turned to me and said, "You know, your father can't really swim." As I sat somewhat shocked, she explained that he hated swimming to such an extent he'd never really gotten the hang of it. She said, "I have never seen him swim so far from shore. He never would have gone that far if not for you girls." I think my classmates can relate to this feeling my dad must have experienced, that of being in over your head. Speaking with my classmates, I've learned the class was rife with self-doubt throughout the entire 2 years. Tasha was furious with the administration for accepting her into the program and, in her mind, setting her up for a spectacular failure. Bryce, fresh from the birth of his first baby, told the class at one point he was so sleep-deprived and haggard, he became convinced that he was nothing more than a burden to be carried by his classmates. Brown felt inadequate when he compared his background to others in class. Many of us felt, at one time or another, that we were in over our heads. That this challenge was outside our capabilities, or the things that life threw our way were just too big to manage on top of school. And yet, we're all here. This program pushed us to do things we didn't think we could do. We've learned the limitations we thought we had don't exist. Just as my father learned, in fact, he can swim. But my dad didn't do it alone, wouldn't do it alone. He did it with the help of others. The same is true for each and every one of us in this class. We couldn't have done it without the help of our fellow classmates, our teachers, our friends, our family. So many of my classmates have expressed their sincere, deep gratitude for those in their life that helped them through this punishing challenge. One classmate told me the most important thing he learned was that his wife is truly amazing. I will leave that quote uncredited. My classmates have talked about these moments of insecurity, when we wondered how we would manage our workload, how we would get through the reading, how we could possibly leave work to go to yet another team meeting to review yet another finance assignment. We wondered when, if ever, we would figure out what a regression analysis even was, never mind how to do one. There were times when it was all we could do just to tread water, and we learned how to receive help from those around us. We learned to let go of our hang-ups, to be not perfect, and just be there. We knew school was going to be hard, but I don't think we anticipated that there would be other hard things that would happen at the same time. Bryce wasn't the only student to have a baby. Jeff, Usman, Tim, and possibly Rick all had babies in the last 2 years. Some of us changed jobs. Many in our class experienced major life events or significant personal or professional challenges. For me, it was my mom. In the year before school, my mom complained of a progressively worsening back. She said it didn't hurt, it was just getting weaker and weaker. She went from a tall and proud posture to a stooped one, unable to remain upright. The only relief she found was swimming. In the pool, she'd hold onto a float and, weightless, would stand upright and walk the length of the pool, back and forth and back again. She told me the hours she spent in the pool was the highlight of each day. And why wouldn't it be? How we take for granted the simple ability to stand and walk upright. We'd hoped the swimming would help, but my mom only deteriorated. We didn't know what to do, and the doctors didn't seem to know what to do either. But my dad, he started to swim too. Each and every day he would help my mom into the water and would swim with her, uncomplaining. My dad, the bear that thinks he's a cat, in the pool every day. The worry that my family and I felt weighed heavily on me as I entered into the program. And it turned from worry to horror a month into our first semester, when we finally got a definitive diagnosis from my mom, ALS. It was then that I realized she wasn't going to get better. She was only going to get worse. My sisters and I pitched about, helpless, unable to find any meaningful way to make it better. My dad, though, kept swimming with my mom, helping her into the water, first with her cane, later a walker, then a wheelchair. Every day that my mom was able, she and my dad went for a swim. Myself, I began to seriously consider leaving the program. In the intensive week of the second semester, the dreaded finance week, my mom entered the hospital for what would be the last time. I was a walking zombie that week, and my teammates carried me through. Ian, Andrew, Gurinder, Dallas, and Doug, I owe you so big for that. I don't mean if you ever need help moving big. I mean if you ever need help getting rid of a body big. Why did my dad swim with my mom every day? Because early on he set a simple goal for himself. He was going to make my mom's last days on earth as free from suffering and as full of happiness as he possibly could. But just because a goal is simple, it doesn't mean it's easy. And anyone who's familiar with the disease that is ALS will understand how lofty of a goal this really was. My dad did so many things to achieve this goal in so many different ways, but the one thing that will always stand out in my mind is the swimming. Because that's what true commitment looks like. Commitment isn't that initial, terrifying yet exhilarating leap from the cliff's edge. It is the daily grind. It is being presented with countless little decisions every day and consistently choosing not the 100 other things you'd rather be doing, but the one that will further your pursuit of a single goal. For the last 2 years, in our own way, each member of this class has been dragging their burnt out, overworked, exhausted selves into that pool. We have said no to time with our families and friends. We have forgone exercise and diet routines, pursuits of interests and hobbies, expectations of regular sleep or a reasonable workday. We have commiserated with each other, we have encouraged each other, and when necessary, we have pushed and shoved each other into that bloody pool. All to achieve our MBA. Simple, not easy. But today, we claim our prize. It says applause for applause. Sure, we were able to round out our skills. We learned about the value of capacity planning, platform-mediated networks, and the variable cost method. We learned why HR is important, and we learned that short-sleeve suits are a thing. We learned we don't have to be good at each and every little thing. We just need to know someone who is, and now we do. Whether it leads to the big promotion, or the big raise, or whatever next big thing we imagine when we sign up is still unknown. But I can tell you one thing. I'm glad I went swimming with you. We all had different reasons for getting in the pool. And no matter what our reasons, no matter what our backgrounds, our skills, our own personal challenges, we all got in the pool, we all stayed, and we are all better for it. I'm not here to give advice. How could I? I've spent the last 2 years truly humbled by the company I've kept in our classroom. But I do want to urge you to be proud of what you've done and keep doing things just like it. Today, let's all promise ourselves, let's all promise each other that this won't be the last time we go swimming. Thank you.